Courtney Olson's newspaper portfolio for U.S. history. My history portfolio has all of the 40 articles, and it starts with my international articles, which contain articles such as banning the killer robots, and that's like drones basically. And then there's a Brazilian doctor who was probably accused of killing over 300 people, and she will be going to jail. Next, there was a man who was killed for peace in his country, and many of the people were not happy, so they started to protest and had riots to prove to the government that they weren't happy and to try to have that fixed. After Pope Francis was elected, he washed the feet of prisoners, which was not very common or tradition for popes to do, so that was something very interesting that I found. France legalized gay marriage, and I think that's going to set up something for the U.S. or other countries, since a lot of countries, especially the U.S., are looking at gay rights movements. There was a rape of a 5-year-old girl in India, which brought about other cases of child rape in India, and a lot of children are hospitalized per year. And India is one of the worst for assaults on women and children, so they're trying to find a way to protect these women and children and their rights now. And I thought that was very interesting that police are paying these families to not talk much about the rape cases. There was a mass cyber attack planned by a man in Spain, but the cops were able to get a hold of him before he was able to shut down all of the servers in Spain, which is probably very good for the country. So there was Pakistan bombings because of elections coming up, and then there was a fake bomb detector made and sold to local and international government agencies. And Saudi Arabia legalized girl sports, and they had a girl participate in the London Olympics. Next are my national articles that I found, and they talk about how Obama is trying to place an anti-obesity soda law by cutting sodas out of schools, and the Secretary of Defense tried to cut military pay, and the drugs not guns law, because this involves Connecticut and how the shooter was on drugs, and people think that that needs to be controlled. So Arkansas was the first to ban heartbeat abortions. So if there is a heartbeat detected, a woman cannot have an abortion because it's technically a human being, and Arkansas considers that to be murder. This is about Colorado and how the Democrats are heavily involved in the gun control bills that are going on. This is an article on the number of background checks going up, and I consider this to be one of the most important articles in my portfolio because it talks about how there's a lot of background checks being done on people wanting to buy guns and ammunition, and I think that's very good because felons that are convicted shouldn't probably have a gun, or people with mental instabilities, or anyone who just isn't capable of having a gun should probably have a background check. So I think that's probably the most important article in my portfolio. This is about the Boston bombing and how one suspect was dead and how one was still on the loose. Then this is about the Ricken scare in Washington, how someone tried to kill the president by poisoning him. And then we have a plan as the U.S. to retaliate on North Korea if they do attack us. And there was another World Trade Center being built, and it was finished just recently. These are my state articles, and they include articles such as a baby that was shot in Chicago due to gang violence and she died. And next, there was a Republican senator that came out that he was for gay marriage. And Chicago is planning on closing down 54 public schools because they can't fund them anymore. And the Illinois House was able to legalize medical marijuana. The unemployment rate of Illinois is still 9.5% down. It hasn't changed since March. There was a governor from Texas who came and said that Illinois should relocate their business to Texas, and I think some of those people will actually do that. The mayor of Chicago wants to find more prison time for people who have gun crimes against them. And then there was a gunman who killed a family and carried one of the injured members of the family to the neighbor's house before he was captured and killed by the police. This article talks about how a former cop sold a gun to a sex offender. And this is a Marine who survived a suicide bomb, yet he overdosed and died from alcohol and heroin. He was viewed by Governor Pat Quinn as a hero and was in his State of State speech, but he is now dead. Now for my local articles, and they include articles such as the Madison County Treasurer who stole a bunch of money from the state and is now going to be tried. And this is SIUE having a Walk in Her Shoes Day, which is men who walk in high heels for sexual assault awareness. And they walk around campus for the day in big stilettos that were given to them by Washington University, who does the same thing at their campus. This article talks about a bunch of people who are associated with the government in Illinois and were convicted of stealing a bunch of money from the state and how they are going to be punished. This is a marathon that was hosted in Belleville, and there was a man and a woman who hosted a moment of silence for the Boston Marathon runners who were killed and injured. This talks about how there was an overcrowding in a bunch of the jails in a bunch of counties around here, and how Waterloo only holds 15 of the 22 inmates, while others are hundreds over capacity and have people living in the gyms and recreational areas of the jails. I got all 5 of my political cartoons from the Washington Times newspaper, and they include jokes such as the Republican Party becoming the Democratic Party and their views changing, and Obama is telling the country how the sequestration is going to be awful and bring about bad things. And this is Chicken Little being Obama saying the sequestration is going to make the sky fall. This is joking about how Obama let a bunch of illegal immigrants go when he is letting our federal budget go. And this is about how Obama is trying to fight obesity in children when our federal budget keeps growing and growing and nothing's happening with it. The end.